The morning began in a warm atmosphere at Miss Qua's house. The air was still hazy, with early morning mist, and the first rays of sunlight filtered through the old wooden window, casting a pale golden hue over the small kitchen. Miss Qua had woken up very early. Her light, familiar footsteps echoed on the cool tile floor, mingling with the sizzling sound of the hot oil in the pan. She busied herself preparing breakfast, each movement slow but full of care, as if each dish contained a silent concern for the people sheltering under this roof. She cooked porridge for little Tom, carefully adjusting the heat so that it was smooth and creamy, neither too thick nor too thin. Beside it was a plate of golden fried eggs for Khan and Johan, and a steaming bowl of vegetable soup. Everything was simple, yet strangely heartwarming. For Miss Qua, seeing everyone eating well and peacefully in such a quiet morning was a great comfort. Johan woke up to the aroma of food filling the house. She emerged from the bedroom, her hair still slightly disheveled, her face reflecting the weariness of days filled with worries. But when she saw Miss Qua bustling about in the kitchen, Hun paused for a second. A warm, indescribable feeling welled up inside her, a feeling she hadn't experienced in a long time, since the series of misfortunes that had befallen her life. Khan had also just woken up, carrying little Tom outside. The child snuggled his head against his shoulder, his eyes still sleepy, but his mouth curved into a smile when he heard Miss Qua calling. The whole house seemed to burst with life from those everyday sounds. During breakfast, Johan quietly spoke about her plans for the day. She intended to return to her old house to clean and tidy up, then take some goods to sell as usual. Her life didn't allow for much rest. Each day was a silent race against time, a struggle for survival, and the responsibilities of motherhood. Hearing Hun's words, Miss Qua paused for a moment. Her eyes reflected undisguised worry. She put down her chopsticks and gently advised Hun to stay. The events that had transpired were still fresh in her mind, not yet truly settled. She feared Hun wouldn't be safe facing the outside world alone. She suggested Hun stay home and rest, leaving little Tom with Khan, and that cleaning or running the business could be considered later. Miss Qua's words weren't coercive. They were simply the genuine concern of an experienced woman who understood the fragility of lives weathered by hardship. Johan was silent for a moment. She understood Miss Qua's worry, and also understood that sometimes strength isn't about shouldering everything, but about allowing oneself to lean on others. Finally, Hun nodded. A feeling of calm welled up inside her, as if after a long, stormy journey, she had temporarily found a safe haven. That simple act of kindness made Han realize that, no matter how harsh life may be, there will always be warm hearts capable of holding people back from despair. As Hun left the house to get some fresh air, another event silently unfolded. Elsewhere, Dan's mother unexpectedly received a summons to the police station. Her hands trembled as she held the thin paper, each word piercing her mind. Her heart ached when she saw the content directly related to Johan's previous case, a case she had hoped to quietly let go of. She sat silently for a long time, her eyes vacant, staring at the front yard. In that moment, she suddenly understood a heartbreaking truth. Dan, her son, had chosen to report the entire incident to his superiors, determined to pursue the matter to the end. There was no more leniency, no room for old feelings or tangled relationships from the past. The mother's pain wasn't just fear of legal repercussions, but also the sense of loss upon realizing her son had completely sided with justice, even if it meant the family had to face harm. She understood Dan wasn't wrong, but her mother's heart still ached at seeing the old bonds severed so decisively. She recalled the days before, when things were simpler, when relationships hadn't been pushed to the brink of confrontation. But now, things had gone beyond the limits of forgiveness. What had happened to Duhan couldn't be taken lightly, nor could it be concealed because of personal feelings. Give no tear. I do not for. Amidst the tightening legal troubles, Duhan continued her daily life. In the days that followed, Han returned to her familiar work, tending the garden, meticulously weeding, and sheltering the rabbits whenever the cold wind blew. Her hands were calloused from hard work, her shirt often soaked with sweat, but she persevered. Every task, however small, carried the hope of providing a livelihood for herself and her child. She cleaned up the old house, gathering every usable item. Memories of joy and sorrow intertwined as Han touched each corner of the house. Sometimes she paused for a long time, taking a deep breath to control the rising emotions. But then she continued, because she understood she had no right to give up. During the passion fruit season, Han used the harvested fruit to make juice to sell. She washed each fruit herself, carefully straining out the pulp and blending it to her liking. Each bottle of juice sold was not just income, but also proof of the tireless efforts of a single mother. Despite her exhaustion, despite days when her heart felt so empty she wanted to give up, Han still told herself to stay positive. She cherished every word of encouragement, every small act of help that people gave her. It was these things that pulled her out of those long, dark nights, helping her stand strong after the ordeal. All of Han's efforts were directed towards a simple wish: to take better care of little Tom, to give him a more peaceful childhood than the one she herself had experienced. By back in bluff, intellection to Desprez. In another development, Dieu, the woman who had once been blindly jealous because of love, also received a summons. Holding the summons in her hand, Dieu almost collapsed. Everything she had tried to hide, everything she believed she could fool everyone about, now came back like knives, cutting deep into her mind. In despair, she sought out Dan, the man she once loved, the man she believed would be her last support. The meeting took place in a heavy atmosphere. Dieu wept, begging Dan to withdraw the complaint, pleading for a way out. She recalled their childhood, memories that seemed indelible. For Dieu, it was her last glimmer of hope. But Dan remained unmoved. His gaze was cold, his voice resolute. He bluntly pointed out Dieu's grave mistake in colluding with the wrongdoers to harm, and even kidnap, Dieu Han. For Dan, the line between personal feelings and the law was unbreakable. He made it clear, the person who needed an apology and protection was never Dieu, but Dieu Han, a single mother who had suffered too much pain and loss because of the selfishness and blindness of others. The meeting ended in despair. Dieu was completely devastated, while Dan was determined to sever all ties. Even so, deep down, he couldn't help but worry about Dieu Han, fearing that the series of misfortunes would continue to weigh heavily on her already frail shoulders. By back in blood, so where's now, and in down as in. After all, everything ended in a mixture of hope and anxiety. Duhan continued to work hard every day, nurturing her dreams and maintaining her faith in life. She understood that the road ahead was full of challenges, but at least she was no longer alone. Those who caused her harm had to face the consequences of their own choices. Amidst life's storms, Han only hoped to be strong enough to keep going, for her son, and for the peaceful, simple life she had always longed for.